De Grote Tech-show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.
Welkom bij de Grote Tech-show. Tech verandert onze wereld. Hier hoor je hoe. Vandaag vanuit het perspectief van Elastic. De Amerikaans-Nederlandse partij die zorgt dat organisaties binnen grote hoeveelheden data toch kunnen zoeken en analyseren en resultaten kunnen krijgen. Want zonder dat soort software zouden heel veel instanties verdrinken in hun enorme berg data. Ik ben Joe van Buurik en bij mij
Ben van den Burg. Hallo, Joe.
Goed dat je er bent, Ben. Ons hoor je trouwens ook verder uitweiden over wat er verder speelt deze week in Tech in onze extra podcast. Die kun je vanaf elke donderdag horen, dus doe dat vooral. Volg de Grote Tech Show in je favoriete podcast-app. Nu gaan we uitgebreid praten over en met Elastic. Over hun softwareplatform om enorme hoeveelheden data overzichtelijk te houden. En te zoeken en daar resultaten voor te krijgen die tegenwoordig best wel anders zijn dan in het verleden. Inmiddels hebben ze bij Elastic de meest gedownloade vector database voor bedrijven wereldwijd. En dan hebben ze ook nog eens net aangekondigd hoe je daar een eigen AI-agent mee kan bouwen. Alle reden om te praten met de absolute internationale topman van Elastic. So we'll be switching to English as I say welcome to our studio, the CEO of Elastic, Ash Kulkarni.
Well, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you
for being here. For coming over to the Netherlands. Actually, the roots of your company are here. We'll touch on that later. I should mention, Ben interviewed your colleague Jeroen Berkenkamp in our other podcast, The Technoloog, earlier this year.
Yep.
How does Elastic now position itself in the technological landscape?
So think of Elastic as being all about search and being all about AI. One of the most challenging type of data to analyze and do anything with is unstructured, messy information. There are lots of technologies that deal well with structured data, lots of databases. But when you're dealing with documents, when you're dealing with machine-generated data like log files, those are very hard to analyze. Those are very hard to find meaning and correlations in. That is what Elastic is designed to do. And so in the world of AI, when you need to connect your internal information with large language models, for these large language models to be able to actually work within your enterprise context, that is where Elastic is now very widely used. And because of that, we are seeing success all around the world, not just in search and AI, but also in observability and security.
Yeah.
But there is, in my opinion, a fundamental change, because when you have the database in 2010, 2011, it was a database structure. It was another way of structuring a database. And now with AI, it's more a context kind of thing. You look in context, okay, this sounds really good with this part and this with this part. So you need to make a change in the database structure. How did you manage that, to make that AI change?
The biggest difference was how we searched. So in the past, it was all about searching based on text matches.
Yes.
Right? So, you looked for textual patterns in the data, again, in unstructured, messy data. It was an algorithm called BM25. That was the algorithm that was used for that kind of matching. With AI, now you can apply newer techniques like vector search, like hybrid search, to all kinds of data. And you can search not just in text match form, but you can search using these modern AI-based vector techniques. And that's now making it possible for you to work with all kinds of data, with images, with video. We have customers that are using us to analyze and find things in video and so on. And it's that context, again, that's so exciting.
But was that an organic change in your company to search in such a way?
Yeah.
Or organic, so you didn't have to do...
It was all organic. So, for us, the notion has always been to build on a single platform, build new capabilities into a single platform so our customers can automatically start to get value from these new capabilities. So in the same platform that had the ability to do text search, we added a vector database functionality. And that was the big innovation that made us relevant in the AI space. So we did that about 5 years ago. Being open source is a wonderful thing because we get creative ideas from not just within the company, but from even our community. And that's always been a big source of our strength.
So you mentioned this already, the two words, observability and security.
Yeah.
How do those two go hand in hand? Because it's one thing to just be able to find anything you need within your company data, but you need to protect that as well. How do you make sure that both, gets up in the right way?
The most fundamental common thing in all of these areas that we play in is that the data itself is very messy. You think about a log file. One of our co-founders always jokes that a log file is a message that every developer writes to his or her future self.
Right, yes.
Because they know that someday they're going to have to debug their own program, and so they put a message in a log file. But these log files, for that reason, are very bespoke.
Yes.
They are different by each application. So trying to find the right kind of meaning in it for root cause analysis to make sure that you understand why a system is not performing well, that's observability. But that same data can be used for finding threat patterns. That same data can give you an indication of, is somebody using that application, that database, that system for something that's anomalous, that's abnormal? And that's how you actually detect cyber threats within your organization.
Right.
So one data, but different algorithms that serve observability and security. And that's the reason why our platform approach has been seeing a lot of success.
Yeah. Can you go a bit more in depth here? Because it's not just then about generating results in a search, but it's also about bolstering your security. Can you give some concrete examples how that translates into practice?
Absolutely. So we do a lot of work with public sector companies and public sector agencies. Dutch Ministry of Defense right here.
They're your clients.
They're a big customer of ours. We work with KPN, and we do a lot of work with Dutch MOD. Mm-hmm. And they use us for security, observability, and search.
Right.
They have built a agentic application that they call Def GPT.
Yes, I've heard of it.
And that's built on Elastic. But they also use us for securing their perimeters, because our technology works in air-gapped environments. Mm-hmm. So it can work on private cloud, it can work on sovereign cloud, it can, the data always stays within your environment. And by detecting threats the way we are able to in your systems, in your data, we are then able to quickly stop the threat from moving around and doing damage like, encryption for ransomware or exfiltration of data. We have the technology built into the platform to stop those attacks. And today, for that reason, security accounts for over 25% of our business globally.
Right.
Yes, yesterday I spoke about, in my Technologen, my other podcast, about Palantir, and they said, and there was said that they also work for the police and for the Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
How do you compare yourself with Palantir and Elastic?
We are the open company that allows you to do the same kinds of things that they are able to do. We are able to find relationships in data that can be used for all kinds of investigation purposes, that can be used for all kinds of detection logic, whether it be for cybersecurity, whether it be for fraud analysis, whether it be for protecting your borders, and also, making decisions on how you do investigations in police situations and so on. So we are widely used by agencies all around the world for that.
Yeah, and Palantir has a market cap of 400 billion. Your market cap is a little less than 10 billion. How you compare that?
That's the opportunity ahead of us.
Yeah, but that's open source. Has it more value than closed source? How do you see that comparison?
That's the real opportunity, because open source gives you a massive install base, but monetizing that install base takes time, whereas a closed source approach to things allows you to go after fewer, larger customers much faster. Think of open source as a long game, if you will. You first make sure that you have a very large customer base, and you slowly start to convert more and more of them. So I feel that our approach gives us the opportunity to be around in business for the next 30, 40 years, well past my retirement, but you can build a generational company on the back of open source. So that to me is the exciting part.
Yeah, and we should stress you have some pretty high-tier clients. I mean, you mentioned Dutch government and all, but we should mention eBay, Uber, Netflix.
So over 55% of the Fortune 500 are customers of ours.
Right, okay. So, because of the service you provide, but as Ben just alluded to, talk about how you generate your moat from there, if you will.
So the biggest moat that we have, even though we are an open source, we add a lot of capabilities that are only in our quote-unquote paid tier. Mm-hmm. So all of our code is available in our public GitHub repo, but we depend on the IP laws and so on to make sure that nobody copies the stuff that is monetizable, that we charge for. And our moat is the fact that we are good at dealing with unstructured data better than anybody else out there. That's been our biggest strength.
How come? Why are you better in it?
Because that's where we started. That's where we started. We took this approach that when you're dealing with unstructured data, you need to have the notion of relevance. Just like what Google did for data that's on the internet, right? So when you're searching for stuff on the internet, what matters is not a deterministic answer, but the most relevant top 10 links. That's what we started with internally for data that's within the enterprise. Now, how that's changed with AI is you no longer give top 10 links, but you give an answer. And even within the enterprise, that's our core strength because we work with every large language model player out there. We use their technology, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Gemini, we are model agnostic. But you can take our relevance capability, marry it with a large language model through what is called context engineering, and now allow organizations like Dutch MOD to build DefGPT. Similarly, we have other customers that are building all kinds of agents that provide value and answers on top of their own data. So we are the retrieval engine. We are the context engine that makes ChatGPT-like experiences possible within the enterprise.
So what are the buttons you control to make sure the clients are happy with the results? Because if there's one thing that is very much a topic with, if I can call it, semantic results.
Yeah.
Is that, there's the nuisance of hallucinations or any correlations that don't match. Literally last week we had a developer in here who designed an AI voting assistant, which are all the rage in the Netherlands because we had elections last week. But he was like, no, it can be done right. You just need to watch this and that. What can you do as Elastic to make sure there's no disappointment when a company or any client switches to the new way of searching?
That's a brilliant question because at the end of the day, language models, these large language models, are not deterministic. They're probabilistic. Right? So by design, they are guaranteed to have some variability in different times that it tries to give the same answer. The way we control that is, again, through what is called context engineering. So we give the most relevant information to the language model to answer the question that's being asked of it. And then we provide the prompt that says, do not make stuff up. Only use the information that's in these documents that we are providing you to answer the question. And language models follow those kinds of prompts. What is important is the accuracy and the relevance of the data that you're providing it. And that's our core strength. At the end of the day, our whole value comes in looking through all of your internal data and saying, for this particular question, these documents are the most relevant. And another thing that we are very good at is being able to show you where did this information come from. So the data provenance, if a language model is giving you an answer, you want to know, where did you get this answer from?
Right.
What did you look at? And if you're using Elastic, we can quickly show you that because we can show you what were the documents that were used in creating that answer by that language model. And that's why we get used so frequently because we are able to connect the dots between the source of information and the answer that was created.
Yeah. And does this then guarantee 100% accuracy in the response?
As long as the data, so it's going to be accurate in terms of being related to the data within your organization.
Yeah, so the data needs to be sorted out.
Exactly. The data needs to be correct, right? So if you have, it's garbage in, garbage out at the end of the day. So if your internal data is faulty, then you're never going to get perfect answers.
Yes, which model do you like the most at the moment?
So we have discovered that we get different quality of results based on the use cases. For our security use cases, we tend to use Anthropic's Claude model as the default. For other kinds of use cases like translation-related use cases, we find that Gemini and OpenAI tend to give the best results. Yeah. We find that open source models like Mistral and Llama are really, really good, except for the most complex use cases. So our customers will often use, they'll switch between different models based on cost and other attributes to get the best outcome.
But then you're always dependent on those models. When the token price will increase, you have less margin.
Well, the way I look at it is one thing that I'm very confident of is that the price of dealing with tokens is going to keep going down.
Yeah,
right. So look at the investment. Exactly. Look at the investment that's going on. I think that's going to keep going down. But that's why also we're betting on open source. So I'm a big believer that open source is just like it brought down the price of all kinds of things, database costs, operating system costs, and so on over the years. that open source is also going to bring down the costs of models and inference.
So open model, so open source models.
Open weights.
Yeah, open weights, yeah.
Yep.
But you can still be squeezed because you mentioned Gemini, Anthropic, so you can be squeezed between those parties.
At the end of the day, when we look at the overall mix of the spend for a solution, I would say that typically the majority of the cost is spent on the model inference, right? That's a given. Like without a doubt, you'll probably be spending 80 to 90% of your cost on the model, whereas 20% of the cost will be spent on Elastic or something like that. But that's okay, because these are huge markets. These are massive markets where 20% can mean a market opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars over time.
Zometeen praten we verder met Ash van Elastic na deze boodschap. En nu gaan we verder in gesprek met Ash van Elastic.
Where was a use case where you're really proud of? You thought, wow, we can get this out of it.
I'll give you an example that I think is probably one of the most satisfying from a human perspective. And then I'll give you an example of real monetary value.
Okay.
From a human perspective, like one that I am most proud of, and this was something that somebody from the Department of Homeland Security in the United States presented at one of our events, one of our user conferences. There's an agency called Homeland Security Investigations that's part of the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. And one of their functions is to prevent human trafficking. And when you're dealing with investigating human trafficking situations, just think through, you've watched enough CSI, you've watched enough crime dramas on TV. It typically starts with somebody calling a hotline and saying, hey, I saw some young person being, taken what seemed like against their will at this bus station, at this airport, whatever. And then when that hotline comes in, then the investigation kicks off. Somebody's looking at CCTV camera footage. Somebody's looking at calls. Once you identify a person of interest, you have to look at their social media. You have to dig through so much information. They built an application where they're doing semantic search across all of these different sources of information and correlating them. They did that on Elastic. They claimed that they were able to increase what they call their solve rate, the speed with which they're able to do an investigation, by 40 times. Imagine that, right? 40 times more effective agents in solving these kinds of problems. To me, that was amazing.
And the $100 billion?
So it adds up as you look at it across multiple customers. But customer support, we are seeing a tremendous amount of uptake in terms of using AI to actually solve customer support use cases.
And this is why you've launched the Agent Builder recently.
That's exactly right.
Because it's an interesting one, because we have a lot of discussion that the adoption is really difficult.
Well,
and now you say, well, the adoption is, you don't say it literally, but that the adoption is okay.
We are seeing very good adoption, not just okay. We are seeing excellent adoption in these use cases. I think the most important thing is you have to think about the right use cases. Like think about customer support.
Right.
When you're dealing with customer support, a customer calls you, your answer isn't going to be the exact same every single time. These aren't deterministic use cases. You are trying to understand what the user is asking for and then try and figure out what's the best answer I need to give this person.
Yeah.
What's the best possible next step? These are probabilistic systems by nature. That's where AI works very well. If you try to use AI for something that's very, very deterministic, then you're not going to get a great answer. So customer support, I've found, has taken off really, really well for us.
Now, tell me, please, what kind of customer support in the Netherlands use Elastic? Because my experience is still really bad with it.
We are working hard to do more in the Netherlands.
Great.
So give me a year, and then maybe next year I can tell you more.
Okay. Right. Well, speaking of the Netherlands, what typical signs of Dutch culture does Elastic still have? Or is it more of an American company these days?
We are still a Dutch company. Our headquarters is in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
We are Elastic NV. Our IP is all in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's tax reasons.
Yeah, so not just tax reasons actually, because we pay taxes in we have to pay taxes in every country that we operate in.
Right.
But it's we have more engineers in Europe than we do in any other part of the world.
All right.
And about the culture, is it the direct culture? Can you tell us something? Yeah.
So our culture is really best represented in what we call our source code. So these are some principles that our founders wrote, and we've actually added to them. But probably the one that I'm most proud of, that I think represents Elastic the most, is humble, ambitious. That is one of our 6 source code items, our values.
Right.
And we try to be that way. Like, I'm very proud of who we are as a company, but most people who get attracted to Elastic are not folks who are about themselves. Like, I remember you asking me earlier, are you like a tech bro? And my answer was like, I sometimes fear that I might not even realize that I'm becoming one. But we truly believe in that value, that notion of being humble but being ambitious, right? We truly want to build a generational company. I want to build a company that my kids can work at. Like, it's something that can outlast me. But humility is very important. Another one is, we really believe that we should have time to work the way you want to, right? So we hold ourselves accountable to a very high bar of productivity and so on. But everybody is different. We need time to work our way. So we've always been a distributed first company, right? We have employees in over 43 countries at this point. We don't expect people to be in offices. We have figured out how to be incredibly productive being remote. Some people prefer to go for a long run in the morning, and they prefer to start their work at 10 a.m. in the morning, and then they work till late. That's fine.
Yeah.
Others, I prefer to start my workday at 6 a.m. in the morning, and that's okay too. We are big believers in letting people be how they are, who they are, just making sure that you actually deliver to the outcomes that you have committed to each other.
Yeah.
I think those are, I don't know what you would describe as Dutch values, but I think those are good values.
I think this level of freedom, if I can call it like that, definitely applies. I would say that's great values for your company, but I would argue at the same time, you have clients which are using your technology to make sure AI takes over some jobs.
That's right.
And some people will lose their jobs. How do you look at that?
At the end of the day, I've been in this business for the last 30 years, and I'm a techno-optimist. When I started my career, the internet was in its early days, and we were expecting grocery stores to go out of business. We were expecting bookstores to go out of business. We were expecting half of known businesses to go out of business. Look, what happened was, because of the internet, new business models were created. Some things did go out of business.
Right.
Bookstores did go out of business, but grocery stores actually thrived more because now you have last mile delivery that's better. So much changes every time there is a technological shift. But I believe that we human beings are really good at figuring out how to work with new technology to create new kinds of jobs, new kinds of opportunities, new kinds of services. I think AI is going to do the same thing. We will go through a period of having to retrain ourselves, really figure out what are these new kinds of jobs. It's gonna happen. I think some jobs will change, some jobs might go away, other new jobs will get created, and I'm a big believer because I've seen it happen now at least 3 times, whether it was mobile computing, cloud computing, internet.
And what would you say is then the way to realize this? Because I feel a lot of people who may be, having to deal with a layoff are struggling to reinvent themselves.
It's really important for businesses not to think of this as an opportunity to cut costs. I think it's important for businesses to think about this as ways to accelerate growth by using the talent pool that you have in other ways. Mm-hmm. That's what we do, right? So we might hire fewer customer support engineers.
Yes.
But we want to make sure that as we are growing, we are expanding, we take some of those same technical people and now start to, train them on how to be great developer evangelists, how to be great at helping our customers expand what they're doing with Elastic. It's the skill set that you want to leverage and think about new ways because that's going to drive growth. So rather than thinking about everything as a cost exercise, I think about it in terms of, if I have great people, what more can I do with them? How can I get them, how can I motivate them to take us even further as a company.
Yeah.
That to me is a better approach in life. And I think that's, the best companies always do that.
Yeah, they don't look at layoffs, they look at way to implement those people in new ways.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. What's going to be the biggest challenge for Elastic over the next few years, Ash?
Complacency. That's the thing I worry about most.
Really?
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, look, the space is moving so fast. We're not, with AI, things are not changing every year, every 6 months, every month. Things are changing every week. Like every week, there's something new that comes out. New models, new capabilities because of reinforcement learning, new approaches to provide context to the problem. So with each of these, we just need to keep, making sure that we are disrupting ourselves, right? And that takes a level of determination on how do you keep reinventing. And if you stop doing that, if you get too happy about your results and, how you're growing, etc., I think that can be bad. So that's what I worry about, honestly. When the world is moving this fast, you got to move faster.
Yeah, but complacency is more a culture, more a mentality kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. But it's now we are 4,000 people. We need to make sure that we are embodying that for across 4,000 and more people. That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, they are humble and eager and...
And they're always trying to figure out, how do I disrupt myself? Don't wait for others to disrupt you, right? That takes a special kind of confidence, self-confidence in people.
How did Elastic disrupt itself the last time?
The most recent thing that we did was we launched our serverless product a couple of years ago. We used to in the past get this complaint that, Elastic it takes a lot of effort as the size of the data store grows. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort to manage it. And so we were thinking of ways to simplify, and it just felt a lot like it was cosmetic surgery. And so, a few of us, our co-founder Shai, our head of products Ken, a bunch of other people sat down and basically asked the question, fundamentally, if we were to rewrite Elasticsearch today, let's say Elasticsearch did not exist, and we were writing it for the first time today, how would we write it? And Shai, who's the original author, he said, when I wrote Elasticsearch, we did not have S3. We did not have object storage.
Yes. No.
That's why I had to build an entire architecture on disk-based systems, and that is the root cause for all the complexity in managing this data store as it grows. Okay, now you have S3. If you had to rewrite it, how would you rewrite it? And that became the genesis of our serverless product. So Shai led the effort, and it took us almost 2 years to come up with the first version. And that was very, very disruptive because we knew that once we came out with that, in the next 3 to 4 years, the majority of our customers will move from our current architecture to that, which means we have to think through how we enable that migration, how we enable that transition, how we retrain users. Lot. But without that, we would never have been able to create something that is truly like a lovable experience, right? And that is, I think we are determined to keep doing that to ourselves every few years.
Yes, now you're also a cooperation with AWS, of course. Yeah. Are you thinking about building that yourself in the future?
Building our own cloud?
Yes.
When
you get bigger, then maybe it's worthwhile.
Yeah, so our big model is we work with all the 3 hyperscalers and more. But we also make sure that you can run Elastic in your own data centers. Actually, what I am seeing is there is a greater movement towards sovereign clouds.
Oh, yes.
There's a greater movement towards,
You've been to Brussels to talk about it.
That's right. I was meeting with the Director General there, responsible for Director General Viola, and it was amazing to see all the things that are going on in the EU to make sure that there is a better understanding of how to have more control, more governance, more provenance of the data.
Yeah.
And our architecture just naturally enables that. And given the fact that we are headquartered here, we are a company that has so much of our presence in Europe, we feel that there's a real value in us collaborating with the teams here to do more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot more from you over the next few years in Europe.
Nee, the coming 30, 40 years.
Coming 30 to 40
It might not be me, but it's my future me.
Your future me. Okay, well, we'll see. Your kids, you mentioned, should be working at Elastic as well. But thank you so much for your views and your time. CEO of Elastic, Ash Kulkarni. Tot zover voor nu. Luister de Grote Tech Show juist ook als podcast. Want vanaf elke donderdag gooi je onze analyse over wat er verder speelt in de wereld van tech. Tot de volgende Grote Tech Show. Dag.
De Grote Tech Show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.